ഇന്ന് നമ്മോടൊപ്പം ഉള്ളത് മിസ്റ്റർ സുരേഷ് പ്രഭു. സുരേഷ് പ്രഭു ഇന്ത്യയുടെ സിവിൽ ഏവിയേഷൻ മിനിസ്റ്ററായിരുന്നു, അദ്ദേഹം റെയിൽവേ മിനിസ്റ്ററായിരുന്നു, കൊമേഴ്സ് മിനിസ്റ്ററായിരുന്നു. ഇദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ ഈ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് കൊണ്ട് യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ ഇപ്പോൾ ഇന്ത്യയും യു എയും തമ്മിലുള്ളതായ ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ സൈൻ ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നതായ ഈ സിപ എഗ്രിമെൻറ്റ്, കോംപ്രിഹെൻസീവ് എഗ്രിമെൻറ്റ് ഓൺ പാർട്ട്ണർഷിപ്പ് എഗ്രിമെൻറ്റ്, അത് സൈൻ ചെയ്തതിന് ശേഷമാണ് നമ്മൾ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ കാണുന്നത്. ഈ സമയത്ത് ഇന്ത്യയും യു എയും തമ്മിലുള്ളതായ ബന്ധം വളരെ സുദൃഢമായി തീരുന്ന ഒരു അവസരത്തിൽ അദ്ദേഹത്തിൻ്റെ അഭിപ്രായങ്ങൾ നമ്മൾ ആരായാനാണ് ഇപ്പോൾ സംസാരിച്ചിരിക്കുന്നത്. വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ചില പോയിന്റുകൾ അദ്ദേഹം നമ്മളോട് സംസാരിക്കുന്നതാണ്. അത് പലപ്പോഴും അത് ബിസിനസ്സുകാർക്ക് ഇത് എത്രമാത്രം പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുത്താം, പ്രവാസികൾക്ക് എത്രമാത്രം പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുത്താമെന്നെല്ലാം നമുക്ക് അദ്ദേഹത്തോട് ചോദിച്ച് മനസ്സിലാക്കാം.
One thing, we are meeting at a very opportune time, or maybe very crucial time, when India and UAE have signed the CEPA agreement, and which has now taken effect from 1st of May, and a delegation from UAE also has gone to India, and they announced that 90% of the tariff will be consumed. What's the view on that CEPA now?
Now the CEPA offers us an opportunity to create a new industrial basis and economic activity related zones in both the countries. Because of proximity, first geographical proximity, then cultural relationship, and also this long-standing, beneficial, mutually accepted relationships already there. It's a building block. So I think this is definitely doable. I'll not be surprised if we exceed the target even sooner, as you said.
Yes.
So I think this is definitely doable. The potential is huge.
Yeah, talking about the food security, so they are planning a food corridor also like that. So what is how it will play out in that case?
If you look at it now, of course, when we talk about food security some years ago, when I used to lead from the Indian side, we had a different dimension, and today what we're facing is a big challenge. In fact, nobody could imagine that there will be a war like this in Europe. Nobody could imagine that there will be so much of disruption in supply chains. Nobody could imagine that there will be a food shortage. There is actually not a shortage really, but because of disruption. So all these things are creating huge challenges, and also the oil price, which has now crossed $100 for a while, it's a big challenge. So when we talk about this food, we felt that you cannot, like India cannot live without energy, nor the people in UAE, or for that matter the Gulf, can really survive without the food. So I said, and India has surplus in food. I had prepared India's first ever agriculture export policy as a commerce minister. First time. We didn't have an export policy. That time our export of agriculture was $26 billion, and I had said we'll take it to $100 billion. We already crossed 60. So this has already happened. So first time I made a policy and this has happened. So I think what is really, in my opinion, is a challenge that public policy always faces, is inability to capture the potential. So if you realize and you set your eyes on your target appropriately, then there is already a framework that emerges. Second thing, we should always remember, all this business, economic activity will happen in private sector. See, like one of the success story of UAE is they allowed the entrepreneurship to grow. There is more than 160, 170 nationalities living here, and they live in harmony, they live in. So what did they do? They said, bring the best, the human resource, the technology, the financial capital.
Yeah, in fact, the recent regulations are only for even they are attracting talent as well as investments. When talking about that one now, how about the Indian businessman? How can they benefit from this CEPA agreements now?
See, that depends upon the business
sectors,
model. How you set up a business model, because if you look at it, if I'm not mistaken, there is a value addition requirement of 30%, I think.
Yes.
30% value addition has to happen here.
No, more than that, one is that because the CEPA agreement also provides for setting up companies here. Indian companies can set up their operations here, and they can produce. At the same time, they can export to 20 countries from UAE, making use of the made in UAE label, which will allow them duty-free exports to these countries. That means this value addition will help Indian businessmen to set up new businesses here, as it is almost 40,000 companies are there owned by NRIs here. So this may increase, or even the number may double also, and it can say in that case if they set up this.
No, but as you said, to get those duty concessions, and to qualify for export to other countries, third countries, from UAE for the Indian company, there has to be value addition that has to happen here.
Yes.
So now that value addition, that's why the business plan, how you prepare your own ideas of business, that will be very important.
Yeah.
So you have to use that entrepreneurship, because 30% value addition here, that means if you bring, suppose you bring a product from India at $100 and you want to export it from here to third country, then at least, or you want to export something, bring from other countries and export back to India.
And that also is there. No, that corridor is now open.
All open, but that value addition has to happen.
Yeah.
So there is always in this FTA, the free trade agreement now, this is a step ahead of FTA, which is called SEPA. But normally in the free trade agreement, there is a concept of place of origin.
Yeah.
And a place of origin gives you the advantage of availing of the custom duty or any duties or any tax concession. That place of origin requires that value addition has to happen. Now that can change from country to country.
Will the SEPA scope will be broadened or widened to include others, like financial services are not included in that one, because even India was trying to get into the banking business here now, because the SBI's application is still pending with the central bank for almost 35 years, because the only Indian bank operating from here is Bank of Baroda. Other banks are not there. So will it be also included in the scope of this one?
See, that's what I was saying. When SEPA is there, doesn't mean automatically everything will happen.
Yeah.
That depends upon the kind of business plan we'll have to make, the kind of regulation each country will have to frame to ensure that there is a compatibility between this what is agreed between the governments and the regulatory on the ground, whether it's a banking regulation, whether it's insurance regulation, whether it is insurance, whether it is related to other businesses, that will have to happen. But I see as a good beginning, and things will always happen. If you don't make a beginning, how the things will happen?
But you don't see any impediments in this now?
I don't think so. And I'm sure, I know the leadership on either side is committed to make this work. That's very important, because the political capital that you deploy into making things happen on the ground is very critical for things to really take off. And that is available in abundance. So I don't see any problem, because Prime Minister Modi or His Highness the President, the newly appointed President, both are committed to this.
In fact, he himself was the architect of this one, SEPA, when he was giving it.
We'll see a very good momentum.
And on the other side, from our side, no, maybe you are the one who started the foundation for this, even the FTA.
See, this is always the case. Somebody has to sow the seeds, somebody, so this is okay.
Yeah, you sow the seeds, but now we are harvesting it now. Talking about the Indian economy now, what we see is that now I think we are going through a kind of a crisis there now. For example, the price inflation is there, oil prices are on the rise, and rupee is all-time low. Then our forex reserves may be depleting because to maybe artificially prop up the rupee or something now. What is the state of affairs in the economic front now in India?
If you look at it, you have to look at any national economy in the perspective of the global economy. We like it or not, no economy has a choice of getting insulated from the global trends. For example, when the US Federal Reserve, their regulator, decides to increase their central bank, they decide to increase the interest rate,
from 0 to...
The whole world gets affected. Why? Because the whole world normally operates on capital flows. The capital flows on two counts. One is capital comes in on a long-term basis like foreign direct investment, or it can come through portfolio investment mode. Normally what happens is, when you have your bank, where most of the funds are located in US, Europe, when the central bank there, particularly during the COVID period, they had made interest rates so low that
it was near zero. It was near zero, yeah.
At that level, you are actually doing an arbitrage. You can borrow in US for say less than 1% or even less than 0.25%, and take that money, invest into exchanges all over the world, including Asia. And because the money is coming in automatically, the stock price also will go up. And when the stock price go up, they also benefit. So it's a very interesting thing that because you bring in the money, stock price go up, and stock price go up, they benefit.
Okay.
So now when the interest rates going up globally, you will see a huge upheaval into all the capital markets of the world. Because when the money starts withdrawing, because they will like to also ensure that they are borrowed at a cheap rate. Now they will have to liquidate those loans because the interest cost is rising. So they will take the money out, so it will have impact. That's one reason. Second impact is whether you like it or not, the energy markets of the world are highly integrated. So when we had this Ukraine crisis, and even before that, there were already some challenges on supply side. It is now becoming a big problem, so that will have an impact on economy of all countries, including India, because India imports more than 85%. If you look at it, it is a very interesting phenomena in the energy market. US is the largest producer of shale gas and shale oil. US shale gas and shale oil is not, their break even is something like $60 or so.
Yeah.
So if the price don't go beyond $60, then the shale producers are completely under the water. So they have a big problem. So if the price goes up 60% or $60 per barrel, then shale production goes up and US becomes net exporter of oil.
That's what happens when the prices depressed
Right.
here.
Yeah. So now what has happened is, despite this, the shale production has gone up so much. Despite this, Russia's production is out. Iran deal is still not made, so therefore Iran oil has not come into the market. Venezuela has been facing problems for a very long time. Iraq has been facing some geopolitical challenges having impact on oil. So now as a result of all this, oil prices are going up. That is going to have impact on all countries, particularly India, most adversely. Third part, inflation will rise because then you are asking about the state of economy. So the food, because we don't realize, when the international prices go up, it has an impact on you. You can put some controls on that, but still has an impact. So all these 3-4 factors put together, capital flow, interest rates, and
Oil
also
price.
all our interest rate for India as well. And then when the inflation goes up, you have to increase the interest rate. You increase the interest rate, that causes inflation. See, this is a very double whammy. If you don't increase the interest rate, then the savers who save money in the bank, their interest become negative, so they have to have the positive interest rate.
So which means
that
RBI has to now immediately announce another price rise.
Because you increase the interest rate, then it will have impact. So that is one part. The other part of the challenge is the external sector. As you said, because we are importing so much and the price going up and the portfolio investment going out, that is going to have a very big pressure on the Indian rupee. So Indian rupee depreciating means again that will add to inflation. So it's a real challenge that we are facing. But I'm sure Prime Minister Modi, which is a huge experience of running the country now for the last 8 years, and earlier as the Chief Minister of Gujarat, he knows how to manage the economy. He used to run budget surplus in Gujarat when he was the Chief Minister. So I'm sure we'll be able to go through these challenges.
But all said and done, the common man is now affected. But there is already a job loss is there. Lots of almost 70 million people lost their job after COVID, and then we were actually recovering from that. Suddenly, this double whammy, as you said, has come now. The government has to come out with some kind of a package to help common man. Now, what will you suggest for that?
See, firstly, protecting livelihood is the most important aspect. For that, I am thankful to Prime Minister because he is still providing free food to 850 million people. There is nowhere in the world 850 million is 85 crore people. So there is no other country in the world other than China which has 85 crore population. So this is almost 3 times of US population, 85 crore people.
Yes, yeah.
So that is the kind of numbers. But that means that we have such a vulnerable section of society which is living in India. So we have to protect and take care of them. So we have to always make sure, see, no public policy can be oblivious of the reality that common people need to be protected. So, but as Prime
But at the
Minister
same time, fuel prices are increasing. I know that international price, we have linked to that one as well. Fuel prices, especially cooking gas and all of things, which is affecting them. It is beyond comprehension whether why it is doing it in such a scale. But of course, we have political compulsions and all other things. When it could be stopped or arrested for some time, and it is now. It's coming back to that one now. When talking about oil prices, actually, it's always a buyer's market and seller's market and all of things. Can we do India or India and China and others, the buyers, can they have a cartel kind of thing? Can be the buyers can be the controlling, so that we can dictate prices?
This is in a way, a necessary thing, because there is a cartelization on part of sellers. So why not we have some
buyers
sort of
also
alliance on the part of the
cartelization,
buyers?
yeah.
But it's very difficult to create some organized, because these are all geopolitics also plays a role into this. So knowing our relationship with our neighbors, I think this is always going to be a challenge to work so closely on economic front when we still have other issues that need to be sorted out. But we'll have to work out on some ideas wherein this artificial increase in prices by the cartels have to be countered by adequate, important, effective measures.
Yeah, this one of the measures was that sourcing from Russia was that which had some impact with it, but I don't think in the long term we cannot have that.
Not even 1% of a total requirement.
Yeah, it's
Russia.
only 2% we are
and
importing.
then of course Russia can also supply gas, which now they have put up a huge pipeline, gas pipeline to China. So Russia will be selling huge gas to China. Already EU, European Union, is working on diversifying their entire energy basket, moving towards non-fossil fuel. That's good for environment anyway. That will reduce the greenhouse gas emission. But also they're trying to find out, making sure that the reliance on Russian gas in the next 5 years will go down considerably. So this would mean a redrawing of the geoeconomics and geopolitics of the world in a manner that has never happened. I would say never happened, not even post Second World War or something. Because if you look at it, say take another example. Today, two important countries in European Union, Sweden and Finland, who were never part of NATO, despite even during the Cold War days, they never joined. And there was that even Cold War days also there was a threat, so-called perceived threat, but they never joined. And today they have decided to join, despite Russia telling them that we'll take some coercive action, but still they have joined. So that means that geopolitics is changing dramatically, and geopolitics always has influence on geoeconomics. So different trends will lead to, you cannot imagine the new world as is emerging today.
Okay.
I always feel this is a time we have to be extremely careful and cautious about deciding our strategic moves. And
that is why exactly we banned the export of wheat now.
That is the right thing.
Yeah.
But I personally feel that we are fortunate to have a leader like Prime Minister Modi, who has this ability to work through these very different silos of economics, politics, social issues, international relationship. So I think he'll be able to take us through this.
You had handled the civil aviation portfolio for quite some time, and at the same time, unfortunately, that time also the prices were going up, the airfares, and the NRIs here, expatriates are always facing that problem of actually what we could call it, that unreasonable rise. Sometimes it goes up 100%, 200% other things. That too in the peak time. Can you suggest some way out to some rationalize it or something like that when the private sector is also there now?
See, there are two key elements.
I know commercial considerations are there for them to do that.
There are two key elements. One is demand supply, because the traffic between these two countries is so huge. So there's a huge demand. So we have to obviously augment the supply by creating more capacity on this route. That is one. Second reason why it is now increasing is cost of aviation fuel is going up.
That's the recent phenomenon.
So I'm saying right now. So therefore I'm saying two elements. One is the permanent one, which can be solved, or other long-term one, which can be not permanent but long-term, which can be solved only by creating more supplies. That's one. And the temporary one, right now what we are facing is because of aviation fuel going up. That also can be addressed in terms of some sort of a duty concession or something so that air travelers can be protected. In fact, if you will be surprised that US is one country which is dependent on two major modes of transportation, roads and air. So when 2008 and even now during COVID time, the aviation industry was protected, and even in Europe, most of the airlines in Europe were protected by some sort of a support from the public policy. So I think that is what would be needed at a critical time like this to ensure, because here, these are the people who work here also supporting our external sector.
Yeah.
See, India is the largest recipient of remittances in the world. Largest in the world.
Yeah,
more
it was
than the
80
Filipinos.
billion. Last time it was 80 billion according to...
Now it's exceeded $80 billion. So just imagine that these are the people who support our external sector.
But they are forgotten.
So this is why we should take care of them. I always feel that our people working in more than 50 degrees centigrade, braving the very odd weather and saving money only to send back to, of course, to their
At
families.
the same time, I don't think India has that much consideration for them, because especially our forex reserves are an all-time high of about 645 billion. Only thing that recently for the oil price, because of, to tame the rupee, they had spent around 45 billion. Otherwise, maybe we are very comfortable on the external, this thing. India is not considering the NRIs. No, we don't want that.
No, I think we should.
There was a time when they were actually, they came out with an NRI bond. So now they don't consider any of them. So there is no way out for this poor NRIs, especially the workers who cannot afford this.
That's why I'm saying, if you take this as a perspective, then it is necessary that we should always be conscious of this reality, that these are the people who support us without, we chase the foreign direct investment and we hardly get anything, and they will negotiate with this. These are the people unconditionally send money back. So it's always a case.
Now maybe the capacity increase, like the Tatas may be coming to this, maybe with the increase of capacity.
I think we have to, first and foremost, India's aviation sector is the third biggest in the world. And we must allow more capacity to be created. And that's the only way we can address this demand-supply challenge.
But how you address it when you are the minister?
Sorry?
When you are the civil aviation minister, have you addressed any formula was worked out?
See, that time also we were trying to work with the airlines. I was telling, unfortunately the jet things happened and then capacity went down. But otherwise we were always open to this idea of more and more capacity getting created. That's the only way you can ensure that the growing demand of a magnitude that we witness on this sector can only be met.
Okay, in conclusion, what is your message to the NRIs here to make use of the technology or other things?
There is few messengers in the world who came on this planet and gave messages. I am not a messenger, but I can always request my friends and also tell them with confidence, never get disheartened. If there is something bad happening today, that means the worst is over. And now prepare for the best. So I always feel, don't worry about anything. By worrying, you don't achieve anything. So think about positives and try to...
And let's hope for the best. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.